Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a session about gratitude and gratitude practice. And I'm just going to introduce myself. Some of you may know who I am already, but I'm a health coach and a mindfulness teacher, and I do psychotherapy and eye movement therapy for people with chronic illness. And I live with MCAS and Lyme disease and various conditions that mean that I have lived experience of using these tools to help me. And a lot of what I'm talking about tonight is based on research, and I'll be quoting some studies about this, but also my own lived experience of using these practices myself. So I'm going to start with a disclaimer to say that obviously it's not medical advice what I'm talking about tonight. And, there's nothing particularly, that could cause any harm in this session. It's just, about gratitude practice. But it's important just to say that I don't know your personal circumstances and I can't give personal advice about your situation. So gratitude, it can feel like a really tricky subject. We hear a lot about it in the media and, celebrities talk about gratitude practice, and that can sometimes be quite triggering for us when we live with chronic illness. Gratitude, it can feel like a very distant emotion, and it can feel like, we don't have a lot to be grateful for, and that's very um an uncomfortable discussion. And I don't know if you want to put in the chat or just think for yourselves for a moment about what does gratitude mean for you. When I say gratitude, how does that feel? Does it feel like a good subject? Is it something that you enjoy and that you recognize in yourself? Or is it something that you maybe struggle with and that you feel is a bit triggering and that people are, telling you should be grateful? And what have you got to be grateful for? Because it feels really hard to live with chronic illness. Have a think about that. Maybe, you're free to put things in the chat. I think I can see the chat. Ah, yes, I can see the chat. So feel free to put something in the chat if you want to say something about the topic of what gratitude means to you. When you hear that word, when you see it being talked about, when you read, wellness journals and they say, oh, gratitude, is it something that comes easily or something that feels a bit tricky? So yeah, gratitude can feel hard. Yeah, appreciating small things, exactly, and things that make you smile. Exactly. And this is something we're going to talk about in the session. It doesn't need to be enormous things. It can be just those little things that bring a smile to your face momentarily. Joy to, yes, making you feel good, and yeah, distancing yourself from the difficulties. Exactly. It's a little bit like some distraction, isn't it, from the hard stuff. Doesn't mean that the hard stuff has gone away or that the hard stuff isn't difficult anymore. Just helps you to create a little bit of distance there and maybe a bit of distraction for a few moments to focus on something nice. Absolutely. So it can be a really helpful practice for us to do. But a lot of people do find it tricky. A lot of people do feel, what are you telling me to be grateful for? Am I supposed to be grateful that I'm ill? How can I feel grateful when my life is so difficult? A lot of people do struggle. And if that's you, don't worry, because that's really normal as well. And it's okay to feel like that. But hopefully by the end of the session, it might be that you feel a little bit differently about gratitude. And I hope so. So, what is gratitude? It's the definition is the intentional and regular act of reflecting on and expressing feelings of thankfulness. And it's intentional. That's the thing about it. It's we making an intentional decision to feel grateful for something and to really notice that feeling of gratitude. And there's lots of research. For example, there's a study there by Wood in 2010. It cultivates a change in our mindset that we've just been talking about there, shifting our focus away from pain and distress and suffering or loss, and focusing for a moment on small moments of value, what they call small moments of value, which is exactly what we were just saying, small things that bring us a sense of gratitude. But it's really important to recognize that it's not about denying the difficulty. It's not about that Pollyanna mindset where we go, oh, everything's fine when it's not, and we're really distressed, and it's quite obviously not fine at all. It's about what we've just talked about, acknowledging that there can be moments of good, even when we're suffering and there's difficulty and pain or emotional distress. There can be those moments as well. It's like duality. Both can exist at the same time, and we can feel moments of gratitude at the same time as feeling distress or being ill. And there's a little bit of neuroscience now to explain, because a lot of people think, oh, gratitude, it gets talked about a lot. I said, it gets bandied around in wellness circles, and people can think it's a bit woo and a bit kind of, hippified, and it's just nonsense and all, gratitude. There is actually some real scientific benefit to this. And these pictures here are showing two areas of our brains. The picture on my left, so the one that shows the whole face and head, there's a tiny little red almond shaped part of the brain in there. I don't know if you can see, just sort of near the temple. We have one either side, and that's our amygdala. And that's the area of our brain that is responsible for negative feelings and unhappy and difficult emotions. And then the other picture, which shows the brain itself, the area that's lit up at the front is the prefrontal cortex, which is our wise and rational, evolved brain. And I think of these two parts of our brain. The amygdala, I think of as the worried, frightened brain, and it worries a lot and it feels all these negative, difficult emotions like sadness and fear and anxiety and worry. And it's very judgmental. It's always thinking, is this good or is this bad? Is this right? Is it wrong? Very negative focused, worrying about things that are wrong all the time, thinking about things that are wrong, very judgmental of others, very judgmental of us and ourselves. That inner critic voice that we get, that's coming from the amygdala, and that's being driven by that little part of the brain. And then the prefrontal cortex is what I think of as your wise, kind brain. So it's very calm, it's very rational, it's compassionate, it's good at problem solving, it's good at executive functioning and high level thinking, and it's compassionate. It's that kind, compassionate voice that we would use to other people. So we tend to talk to ourselves with our amygdala and be very negative towards ourselves. But when we speak to other people, we engage our prefrontal cortex and we feel compassion for them and we offer them comfort and support. And it sees, that part of our brain can see logically and rationally and compassionately the best in ourselves and the best in other people. And we can't be in both at the same time. So that situation where we get very stressed and very anxious, and then we completely, we do something really silly, or we forget all the things that we'd planned to do and all the things that we meant to say, they all go out of our head because we're anxious. That term blind panic, that's what happens when the amygdala takes over and we lose connection with that prefrontal cortex, with that wise, kind brain at the front. And the more we spend time in our amygdala, in activating that worried, frightened brain, exercising it, if you like, and ruminating and thinking and feeling anxious and focusing on difficult and negative things, it's completely normal to do that when you're experiencing difficult situations, difficult experiences, pain, illness, distress, bereavement. All of these things activate our amygdala and make it very vigilant and make it overactive. And it's not surprising that we then feel these difficult emotions and find that hard. But the same is also true of our prefrontal cortex, of the wise, kind brain. The more often we can switch that part of our brain on and activate that, the more we feel good emotions. It helps us to be mentally well and feel better about things. Emotionally, it triggers positive emotions in us, like being happy, feeling joy, feeling relaxed, feeling calm. And it's a helpful thing for us to do for ourselves to activate that prefrontal cortex often. And when we do that, of course, we can't be in both at the same time. So that worried, frightened brain calms down and kind of switches off for a little bit. And the science behind this is really interesting because the amygdala is a really old part of our brain. It evolved around 250 million years ago, so people, studies suggest. And because of that, we're really, really good at using it. We've had millions of years of practice at evolving our brains to use the amygdala and to go straight to that negative thinking and to be constantly worried and constantly ruminating. Our brains are really good at that because they've had all this practice, and that neural pathway is really strongly defined in our brain as the default mode that our brain automatically goes to. That prefrontal cortex evolved much more recently, and there was, significant expansion in our ability to use this about 400,000 years ago. So in terms of evolution, that's quite young, and we haven't quite got the hang of using our prefrontal cortex as well as we've got the hang of using the amygdala. So our brains automatically go to that pathway of ruminating, anxiety, worry, judging, criticizing. That amygdala switches on instantly, and the prefrontal cortex is a bit slower for us to connect with. It's a bit harder for us to engage that, and we need to work a little bit harder on making that prefrontal cortex switch on so we can connect to it really strongly. What's all that got to do with gratitude? So science is now showing us that there are a number of different things, different tools that we can use that help us to do that, that switch on our prefrontal cortex more, connect us more strongly to that area of the brain, upregulate our wise, kind brain, and downregulate and calm the amygdala, that worried, frightened brain. And gratitude is one of those practices. So when we're practicing gratitude, we're actually changing our neurology in our brain. We're switching on different parts of our brains, and that's why it's so helpful for us to practice. Studies show that when we practice gratitude, it particularly activates an area of the prefrontal cortex called the medial prefrontal cortex. And that is associated with regulating our emotions and being emotionally regulated, with making good decisions, and with social connection and being able to connect with others and be sociable with others. And when that area of our brain is activated, it makes us feel happier, it makes us feel more positive, and it improves our well-being. So according to this research at the University of California in Los Angeles, they suggest that their study showed it may lead to lasting changes in our brain, so that our brain actually changes, those neural pathways change, and the brain actually, they can see changes in the brain associated with improved cognitive functioning in those areas of the brain that are associated with feeling better. So that's why we think gratitude is helpful. And there's lots of studies. I've just put together a few of the studies here that talk about the benefits of gratitude. So one study showed that it can calm the nervous system, another that it helps us to shift our attention away from those negative ruminating thought patterns. It helps to build hope and resilience in us, and it can help us to cope with chronic illness. This particular study by Peterson and Seligman in 2004, particularly around using gratitude for chronic illness. Improved sleep, reduced depression and anxiety, enhanced immunity. This is so fascinating that these practices change the way our brains are working. It actually then changes our immune system and how our immune system works. And of course, for us, that's particularly interesting because our immune system is, at the heart of the condition that we experience. And also a lot of us are vulnerable to catching viruses and bugs and things. So anything we can do to enhance that part of our immunity, it's of interest, isn't it? And increased feelings of optimism, also shown in studies. This one study from 2003, participants who kept gratitude journals for 10 weeks reported that they had fewer physical complaints, they were exercising more and feeling more active and feeling more optimistic. So there's really good studies there that show that regular practice of gratitude has real benefits for us. It also activates our reward systems in the brain. It activates the areas of the brain that are associated with reward. So the hypothalamus and the ventral tegmental area of the brain. So the hypothalamus regulates stress, and again, there are studies that show that the hypothalamus gets more regulated and reduces the production of those stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, which add to our problems and add to us feeling physically iller. And the ventral tegmental area is the area that is responsible for releasing those feel-good hormone chemicals, neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin. So we get a boost of those good brain chemicals when we feel gratitude, which leads us to feel better. And as we've seen, it can rewire the brain through that process of neuroplasticity. It helps to actually change our brain structure. And the thing about this is why it's helpful for us. A way of thinking about it is we can't feel grateful and frightened at the same time. It's not physically possible. If you were about to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, or a neighboring tribe was invading your castle, nobody feels grateful in that circumstance. We feel fear. And so when we feel genuine feelings of gratitude in our bodies, it's an automatic signal to our brain that we're safe. Obviously, we're safe, because if we weren't safe, we wouldn't be feeling grateful. So it's a way that our brain recognizes that we're safe and switches us into parasympathetic rest and digest mode. It's like a shorthand way that we can tell our brains that we're safe and that we don't need to be in fight or flight. We can go into rest and digest. And of course, rest and digest is the state in which we heal, is the state in which we absorb nutrients from food. It's the state that our nervous system is regulated, and we can do cellular repair, and our bodies can do healing work when we're in parasympathetic. So it's so important for us to shift into that state of safety, and gratitude is a way of doing that. And when we deliberately, remember, intentionally generate feelings of gratitude, we're rewiring our brains more into that rest and digest mode and out of that defense mode. And as we've seen as well, gratitude helps to build a sense of connection. And as human beings, we have a fundamental need to be connected to other people. We are designed to be in a tribe. We have evolved to live together in tribes. And even if you're a bit of an introvert and you struggle a bit with being in large groups, and maybe connecting with other people sometimes feels challenging, we still have a need to be connected, even if it's just to one or two other people that we feel really close to emotionally and safe with, because our nervous systems are designed to co-regulate. So we and our nervous systems communicate with each other. We feel in attunement with the people around us, and their nervous systems influence us. It's like when a baby is screaming and crying and the mother picks it up, or a parent picks it up, and the parent is calm, the baby calms, because the baby's nervous system is regulating to the adult's nervous system. And when we are agitated and get upset, then children around us get upset as well, and we wind each other up. And the same if we go to a concert and everybody's feeling really joyful and there's that energy in the room, it lifts you and you end up jumping up and down and dancing with everybody else, because you're lifted by their nervous system and their energy. So we're designed to mirror and respond to the nervous systems of people around us and co-regulate. And when we have gratitude and when we feel gratitude and we work with gratitude, we feel feelings of connection to other people, and it helps us to feel more socially regulated because of that connection to the social areas of the brain, the medial prefrontal cortex. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to do a little practice now. This is not the end of the talk. We're just halfway through, but as we're talking about connection, there's a really lovely practice that I'd like to share with you. And it's just one way that we can work with gratitude and begin to explore how we might generate those feelings of gratitude intentionally. And so if you want to, you can join in with this. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can just listen. But if you want to, you can just get comfortable wherever you are. And it's okay if you want to close your eyes for a few moments. That if that feels okay, you can, but you don't have to. Again, we're going to be opening our eyes during the practice. Just taking a couple of deep breaths just to take us into this moment of reflection. And then I'm just going to ask you, whether you've got your eyes closed or open, to just visualize the room around you, wherever you are. And you can open your eyes and look around you at the room, or you can keep your eyes closed and just bring that room to your mind's eye, whichever feels better for you. It's absolutely fine. And just connecting to the sense of all the things that are in the room with you. All of the things that you have around you in the room that you're in, and thinking about the people who were involved in making all of those things. The people who made your computer or your phone that you're watching on tonight. The people that made your clothes. The people that made the furniture in the room, the chair or the bed that you're sitting on. The curtains, the carpets, the cushions. The ornaments that you've got around you, any pictures, anything at all that you can see, either in your mind's eye and your awareness or with your eyes looking. And just begin to think about all those people who have impacted on your life in thousands of tiny ways. People that you will never meet, that you will never know. The farmers who grew your food, the lorry drivers who delivered that food to you, to the shops, the people in the shops who sold you the food or the furniture in your room. And you might be thinking that they were made in factories, and they probably were, but the factories are built and designed by people. The machines that make the things are created by engineers and people who make these things. They all have to be operated on a daily basis by people that turn up to work. Every single thing that is around you right now is there because of the work of other human beings. Maybe thinking about the music that you like to listen to, the books that you like to read, the television programs you like to watch. The things that help to keep you comfortable, the hot water bottles, the blankets, the pajamas, the medications that maybe you take or supplements. All of those people who make that possible, who make those things available to you. The people who keep the water supply running, and the electricity supply into your home. It all happens because other people somewhere in the world get up and go to work to do that. Maybe encompassing other things now, expanding your awareness to the other things in your home, the things that you wear, your favorite things, the things that bring you joy in your home, the things that you love to have around you. And also maybe the more mundane things, the washing machine, the cooker, the vacuum cleaner. What our lives would be like without those things. And all of the people that have created those things for us. Countless people that have impacted your life in a tiny way. And the chances are those people are just like you. They want to live happy lives. They want to be free from suffering. They want to have fun. They want to be loved. All the same feelings and aspirations as we have. And their circumstances may be very different from yours. They might live locally to you, or they might live many, many thousands of miles away from you. Just focusing on the simple truth that because of them, you have whatever it is that you have. And as you sit with that thought for a few moments, just notice how it feels to think about these individuals that have impacted your life in this way. These strangers that you will never meet. Notice what happens in your mind, in your body, in your heart. You might notice some flickering feelings of gratitude bubbling up. Just explore that. And you might not, and that's okay too. Remembering that this is not about forcing gratitude. It's got to be that genuine feeling of gratitude. But just noticing what you feel and whether you feel some gratitude or maybe some other feelings. Just thinking about those people for a few moments and connecting in to any positive feelings that you feel. If anything feels difficult, it's okay to just open your eyes and just stop thinking about that. So whenever you're ready, you can just come back to the room, the virtual room that we are in, and to this session, opening your eyes if you've had them closed. And if you want to, you can share some thoughts or comments about that in the chat. If you want to say anything about it, you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. But just thinking for a moment how that was for you. Just noticing. And if you want to share anything, feel free to put it in the chat. We can always talk about it at the end. So it's worth noticing as well that there are studies about gratitude and chronic pain, particularly using gratitude as a way to help us when we live with pain. And there are studies that show that it can help reduce our perception of pain. So people who felt strong feelings of gratitude experienced lower pain intensity, and their pain interfered less with their daily activities in one study. Another study about gratitude enhancing emotional well-being. So this was about regular gratitude journaling being connected with fewer symptoms of depression in people who had chronic pain. Decreased distress, so helping us to shift our focus away from those distressing thoughts about pain and helping us to cope better. And as we've seen before, improved sleep and also improved physical function. So people who regularly practiced gratitude reported better sleep quality and that they were doing more exercise and movement and feeling more physically resilient, even though they were living with pain. So this, again, another reason why gratitude can help us. And there's lots of studies out there. I've just summarized some bits here. Changing our brain structure, we've talked about, so increasing that grey matter and improving our cognitive function, regulating our emotions by calming that amygdala in the limbic brain, lowering blood pressure. We've talked about boosting serotonin and dopamine, increasing activity in different parts of the brain. We've talked about the medial prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate cortex as well, areas associated particularly with empathy and, again, problem solving, decision making, and controlling negative feelings. Improvement in depression and pain, and improved anxiety and sleep. So we think of gratitude practice as being, oh, I'm getting a lot of sunshine coming through. I'm bathed in light. That we think of it as being a thing that helps us with our mental health and our mental and emotional state. But actually, these studies are talking about physical health benefits as well, actually changing the way our bodies are functioning. And of course, that's really helpful for us when we're living with physical health problems. So the thing about it is, we talked a bit at the beginning about people sometimes find it tricky, and you don't need to be grateful for the pain and the illness. And I think this is sometimes where people get confused and find gratitude practice tricky because they think that they're being told that they should be grateful that they're in pain or that they should be grateful for being ill. And it's absolutely not that at all. But it's about when you're in a state of illness, can you also notice something to be grateful about? So a soft pillow to lie on, a blanket that helps you to be comfortable, a hot water bottle, a kind message or card or text from a friend, someone in your life who supports you, just having a moment of peace and calm to yourself, doing something that you enjoy, something that's restorative. A pet, we can feel gratitude to our pets because they're always there for us, and we can, get so much comfort from our pets. So we're just inviting our brains to notice that there can be good things and that there are good things in our lives, even though we have suffering happening. And remember, it's those genuine feelings of gratitude. So we're not trying to force it. We're not saying, oh, I should be grateful that I've got a roof over my head, and I should be grateful that I've got food on the table. And, this is where people maybe go wrong with gratitude journals, because they're just writing out every day, yes, I've got, nice clothes to wear, yes, but they're not feeling it. And it doesn't matter what we're grateful for, it's just the feeling that we need to try and connect to. And by doing that, it makes things feel a little bit more bearable for us, even though we still have illness. It's not a magic wand, it's not going to take the illness away, but it can help us to feel a little bit better, and it can help our bodies to work a little bit better, as we've seen. So, how to practice gratitude? As I've just said, it does not matter what we feel grateful for. We don't want to be making it into a stick that we beat ourselves with and think, oh, I should be feeling grateful. Today has been a terrible day, but I should feel grateful. I know I should feel grateful. I know there's a lot to be grateful for. We hear people saying that a lot, and that isn't really it. It's not about beating ourselves up for not feeling grateful. It's anything at all that we can do, anything we can notice that generates this genuine feeling of gratitude inside of us, in our bodies, not in our heads that we're thinking we should feel grateful. It's the feeling that has the benefits. So it's anything at all that elicits even a glimmer of that feeling of gratitude. And it's not trying to force it or make ourselves feel grateful. It's just noticing things around us. And like we've just done in that exercise, just taking a moment as you make your coffee in the morning to think, oh, if you have coffee or whatever it is you have in the morning, I'm really grateful that I've got this. How lovely that whoever, the people brought it to the shop and people made it. And you can just allow yourself to just sink into feeling a little bit grateful for those people or for that pleasure that you're about to experience. It can be anything. You can just take a moment to look at the sun in the sky as we've had today, the beautiful sunshine. And I know for some of us it's tricky and the heat is not good, but sometimes we can just look at that lovely sun and think, oh, that's really beautiful. I'm grateful for that. Or the opposite, a cup of nice warming cocoa on a chilly afternoon, seeing a beautiful flower on your way somewhere or in your garden, somebody who's in your life who supports you, just a pleasure, like reading a book or having a bath or doing some relaxation or some craft, a hobby that you enjoy, something that you enjoy doing, like watching television, a program that you really enjoy, or some music that you particularly enjoy, even just bumping into someone in the street and they hold the door open for you, or somebody is kind to you or exchanges a few words with you. We can use that as an opportunity to just notice, because these little moments pass us by. Our brains are so busy doing what they're doing on autopilot, living our lives, thinking about all the things that we've got to think about. And that negative amygdala brain is constantly thinking about what's wrong, where's the negative, what can I focus on that's negative. But there are moments around us every day, tiny little moments, the bird in the sky, the rainbow that's above us, anything at all, we can just spot and begin to think, oh, that's lovely, and use it as an opportunity to feel some feelings of gratitude. Anybody who has done any help for you at all, a phone call, anything, we can just take a moment to think, oh, that was really lovely of them. Because it's so easy to just move on from that. But this is an opportunity to elicit those genuine feelings of gratitude. And whenever you have that moment to do that, do it, because you're getting all of those benefits. It's going to be changing all of those things in your body that we've just been talking about, and changing the way your brain is working. So if you do spot something lovely in your life, take a moment to feel grateful for it, because it's helpful for us to do that. Nature is obviously one of the big ones, and it's very connected with the feeling of awe in nature as well. We feel gratitude and we feel awe, and that has similar benefits for us. So anything at all that you can do to connect with nature. And I know a lot of the time it's not accessible for us to go hiking up mountains or wild swimming or whatever it is that people do in nature, and camping or whatever. But you can have, you can grow some plants on your windowsill, you can grow some flowers in your garden, and you can just take a moment to look at the nature that's in front of you, just looking at a beautiful flower and studying it and thinking, I'm so grateful for that being in the world. How beautiful that I'm able to stand here and take a moment to see that, looking out of your window to what you can see, and maybe the birds in the sky. Just noticing those feelings that nature generally tends to elicit in us, which is similar to gratitude. We can connect into feeling grateful for nature being there for us. So again, we're just going to do a very quick little practice, and this is one of my favorites, and it is one of the quickest ways and easiest ways that we can begin to incorporate gratitude practice into our lives, and it's called the 3 Ps. So again, if you want to just settle, get comfortable, if you want to close your eyes, you can, you don't have to. And again, if you don't want to join in with this, you can just listen. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths. Just take your awareness into yourself for a few moments. Just allowing our minds and our bodies to just come to stillness for a few moments. Taking some nice, nourishing breaths. If that feels okay. Now we're going to begin the practice by thinking about a person. The first P is a person in your life for whom you are grateful. And it can be anybody. It can be a relative, a friend, a pet even. Anybody at all in your life that you feel grateful that they're there. Just connecting in to the feelings that you feel when you bring that person to mind. And just taking a few moments to just appreciate them and their presence in your world. Notice the feelings of gratitude that might arise for you when you think of that person. And now the second P is a pleasure. Thinking about just one small pleasure that you have in your life that is a source of comfort and joy, happiness to you. Again, it doesn't need to be something enormous or grand. It can just be your favorite book, your favorite place to go, your favorite cushion or pillow or blanket. The act of having a nice hot bath, if that's what you enjoy doing. A walk in nature, sitting in your garden, going to the beach, chatting with friends. Anything at all that brings you a few moments of pleasure. And again, just tapping into any feelings of gratitude that you have for that thing being in your life. Having access to that in your life. And then the final P is a promise. And this is something in the future that you're looking forward to, a promise to yourself. And again, it doesn't need to be huge. Some people might have holidays or days out, and maybe you do have something like that to look forward to on the horizon. But if not, that's okay. It can be a very small thing, like having an early night, having a hot bath, allowing yourself some time to read your favorite book. Promise to yourself for the future of something that you will do for yourself. And again, just notice if thinking about that thing that you have to look forward to elicits any feelings of gratitude. And again, this is not about forcing anything or beating ourselves up if we don't feel it. It's okay. We're just exploring these ideas with a bit of curiosity just to see what happens when we think about these things and whether there is any gratitude that automatically bubbles up within us. Sometimes one of these P's resonates more and we feel more gratitude for one of them than others, and that's okay too. It's just about noticing what works for you, what helps you to connect into a feeling of gratitude. We're just exploring how we can intentionally begin to generate a little bit of a feeling of gratitude in our lives. So whenever you're ready, you can bring your awareness back to this virtual space and open your eyes if they were closed. And again, you can pop in the chat if there's anything you want to share, or we can talk about it at the end. So just a little summary here of some ideas about how we can practice gratitude. And again, as we've just said, it's that exploring how you can begin to intentionally look for ways to elicit that feeling in your life. And the 3 Ps is one way: the person, the pleasure, the promise. And you don't have to do it as a practice like I've just done. You can just sit for a few seconds and just think: a person, a pleasure, a promise. Do it in a few seconds. Or even just one of those. If you found one of them resonated with you, then just sit for a few moments and think of that person or that pleasure or that promise, and allow yourself to grow those feelings of gratitude. This is one that's really helped me. My mindfulness teacher taught me this, and I use it a lot. And again, it may land for you, it may not. But whenever I find myself thinking, oh, I've got to do X, Y, or Z, I change it to I get to. So, oh, I've got to take my medications. I really hate sorting my medicine box out every weekend. I have the job of filling all my tablets. I'm sure many of you have the same. And I think, oh, I've got to do my medicines. I actually I get to do my medications. I get to take my medicines every day. I've got to go to hospital. I get to go to hospital. Oh, I've got to cook the dinner. I get to cook the dinner. If you are working, I've got to go to work today. People always say that, I've got to go to work today. It's not until you become too poorly to work and you lose your job and you can't work, you realize what a gift that is to say, I get to go to work today. It's a joy when you can. It changes what happens in your body, and it's extraordinary how just those little words shift the emotional state that we're in. And so I always try and catch myself if I'm thinking, oh, I've got to do a talk tonight. I could have thought to myself, oh, I've got to do a talk tonight. Oh, I get to do a talk. I get to do this talk with you all. It's a real shift there. So there's a gratitude journaling. And again, that's the common one that a lot of people talk about. And again, it works for some people and not for others. So just remembering that you're not trying to force yourself to write something down, but you can spend a few moments at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, just writing down 3 things maybe, or even one thing that you feel grateful for, and just noticing that and spending a few moments pondering that thing. And that is a way to elicit, another way that we can elicit that feeling of gratitude. So there's the idea of a gratitude jar as well. So you can write down one good thing each day and put it in the jar. And then at the end of a year, you can go back and read all of those good things that have happened during the year. Or even at the end of a month, you don't have to wait for a whole year. You could just open the jar at the end of the month. At any time that you feel you need a bit of a boost, if you're having a low day, you can open your jar and read some of the good things that have happened and relive that feeling of gratitude. Writing a little thank you note to someone every day, or you can write a thank you note to yourself. That is allowed too. You can write a little thank you note for what you're grateful for yourself. Everything that you've overcome, everything that you've done, even if it was just getting up or getting dressed, doing a small thing, writing a little gratitude note for yourself or to somebody else. And you don't have to give it to them. You can if you want to. I'm sure they'd be delighted to have it. But the act is for you to just write it down. Sometimes when we're writing things, it activates different parts of our brains and helps us to connect more strongly to that feeling. It might be that for you, writing it generates that feeling more strongly. It might not be. It's about trial and error and being curious about what works for you and what generates that genuine feeling. Remember, it's exploring what it is that makes us feel grateful. And again, practicing that exercise that we did in the middle, thinking about something in your life, things around you in the room, and just taking a moment to just connect to those people. Just think of them again, just bring them to mind and think, gosh, I'm so grateful to them for making that, for doing that, whatever the work was involved. I'm grateful that they did that and that I've got that. So remembering it doesn't matter what you feel grateful for, it's just about eliciting those feelings. And the more often you can elicit those feelings and make that a regular part of your daily life, or, you know, if you struggle with daily, that's okay. Do it weekly, but make it regular so you're getting those lovely benefits in your mind and in your body. And there's no right way of doing this. There is no right way of practicing gratitude. There's no perfect practice. It's about adapting this to your situation. You have different energy levels. You might have different ways of doing things. If you're doing it right. Anything you do that can take a few moments of your time to notice that moment of gratitude, amplify it, because it can be quite a nebulous emotion, gratitude, and it comes and it goes. And sometimes, as I said, you know, these nice things happen in our daily life and we just brush them off. We don't even notice. Catch that gratitude, amplify it, make it as strong as you can, stay with it for a few moments and just allow yourself to kind of wallow in the feeling of gratitude for a few moments and just really absorb that into you, because that's what does all the good work. That's what does the benefits for us. So stay with that feeling of gratitude. If you notice a moment of gratitude, catch it and just stay with it for as long as you can. And as I said, explore different ways. Write it down, say it out loud. Say it to your reflection in the mirror. I'm grateful for whatever. Or do it through your eyes, look at things and feel grateful. We connect with our senses in different ways, and some people will find that it makes the emotion stronger if they say it out loud or if they're looking at something because they're visual people. Explore what works for you and what helps you to feel this sense of gratitude strongest. Eckhart Tolle, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. It's a mindset about gratitude. So that's the end. Those are my contact details. So if you want to, you know, get in touch with me, or I'd be eternally grateful for a follow on Facebook or something like that, because, well, it's really hard to get followers on Facebook. But you can look at my website if you want any more information, or just drop me an email if you've got questions and things.